know if they've changed for COVID, but on Fridays and Saturday nights, they would stay open until 2:30.
Oh, wow.
So you could go out and have a good time and then go have tacos before you went home.
Right? I'm like, instead of Taco Bell, like get some real tacos.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. What about you?
The first thing that popped in my head is pizza. And I'm like, why? I'm not that big a fan of pizza. But thinking more about it, probably my grandma's spaghetti, because she would make, we're from Louisiana, so the spaghetti's a little spicy, which typically your spaghetti isn't spicy, but
I love spicy
Yeah,
spaghetti.
no flavor.
the flavor is so, the way grandma makes it, like, she won't tell the recipe. So, but trying to recreate that, it never gets quite close enough. But she always does hot water cornbread with her spaghetti, and I like that common love for hot water cornbread. And spicy
Interesting.
spaghetti.
Is your grandmother, do you have Italian in your, or she just makes great spaghetti?
She just makes great spaghetti. Yeah,
Huh.
yeah. They're I think Creole. Like
Okay.
she's from. I mean, where she grew up, like doesn't even exist anymore. Like it's part of the southern part of Louisiana that, as the tides keep coming in and out, and the flow of the river, like it's all been like washed away. It just disappeared. There's a picture of my aunt, I think in the 80s, like standing on what would have been the steps of the house. There's just a frame of the steps that are left. Like the house is gone. There's like, you can see water. It's like, clearly there used to be land here, but there's not anymore. So, yeah. So long.
But they know how to cook that too.
Oh my gosh,
And
yeah,
it's-
grandma makes the best southern food.
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you guys been to Denver Biscuit Company yet?
No.
Okay, it's down in Westport, and they have a really good shrimp and grits.
Oh, okay.
Really good, very, very well seasoned. Like they know how to season. Yeah, so just so you know, they're open until 2, so you still have time.
Okay.
2 p.m. or 2 a.m.?
2 p.m.
Yeah.
6 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's one of those, so it has 3 restaurant concepts in one location. So I guess they share a kitchen and staff. I don't know exactly how it works, but it's really cool. So,
I was just checking out how good quality.
we're all like, no.
Randall, if you'll pick while you're deciding which card you're going to do, I'm going to do some introductions real quick.
Okay.
While you're picking out your card. So I'm Les with KC Care, and we're joined with
Father
Taylor from
Christ the King Independent Catholic Church.
Yes, and I have a special co-host today. I'm joined with Randall from
Hamburger Mary's, Kansas City.
Yeah, so we're doing our best self deck of cards right now. So you just picked a card. What's your question, and who is it directed to?
Oh goodness. Okay, so I'm gonna give this to Father here because you said you liked history.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, if you could time travel back to an earlier time in your life, where would you visit and what would you do?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I could do the easy one, and I would, like to go see the time when Jesus was walking on earth. But I think for me, I really love American history, and I especially like and admire leaders who are able to act in a way in which it brought all people together for a greater good. And so I think, one of the people that I most admire, I was just reading a novel or a biography on him. Of course, it's by Doris Kearns Goodwin, who is a fantastic writer. She was writing on Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals.
Oh, wow.
And it's a really, really great book to see how he took, this team of people who were really trying to, they were not fans of him by any stretch of the imagination, but he was able to eventually, bring them together. And, by the time of his unfortunate assassination, he had, their utmost respect and admiration. And so I really admire that quality, especially when we're in a time right now where it's easier to pick sides and isolate, wall people off. But I admired how he was able to galvanize people around a common goal, in order and inspire them to go forward with that. So, yeah, that would be. I guess if I could do that, then I would love to go see him, in a cabinet meeting or something like that. So,
Could you imagine being a fly on the wall then?
Yeah, those conversations that they had.
Saving America. And everything they had to do and fight for it, the risks they had to take.
Yeah.
What an interesting time.
Absolutely. And he used humor. He wasn't afraid to crack a joke.
Right.
And that was a way that he brought people together, to kind of like tear down those defenses and allow people to focus on the task at hand. Ultimately, we are all people, after all, and we all want to live in a world and in a place where we're safe and to thrive. So.
Which, I think, as you were saying that touches on, why we're here today, because of the work that you and other individuals in the community coalesced around, creating a religious home for yourselves, a place where you can practice your faith and share that and provide that space with others. So I think how, with 2020 being in play, did that have an impact on your ability to, did it propel it, move you guys faster into this role, or did it allow you to take some more time to be more intentional in that process?
Yeah, I would say, so we started the launch conversation, the church planning conversation in March of 2020. So remember, they were talking at that point in time, 2 weeks, and we'll all be, we need to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was just gosh.
Yeah, and
so
then, we were so naive. Here we are, a year later, but I am so thankful for that experience. Not thankful for the pandemic, of course, by itself. It's been a terrible, terrible time, but in a lot of ways, it's forced us to really think and take a second to pause and evaluate who we are, what's important to us, what do we want to do, and how do we want to build back after this in a way that is more inclusive and is more empowering and is more effective to really galvanize and build our community. I think oftentimes we get so stuck on looking at the newsreel on our phones and on TV, and we think about we neglect to look at our local community, which is really what Christ the King Church is all about. It's really focusing right in the people that are here, and not worrying and focusing all of our energies. Not that we don't care about the global situation, but where can we be of the most impact and the most effective in terms of helping and serving others. So that's why we decided to plant in West Bottoms. There are no other churches down here, and so we really wanted to come and be that hub for people to come and connect.
Yeah, I purposely didn't map where this place was until I was on my way down here. Right? And I wanted to be aware of thinking were there any churches on the way? And last week when I was out driving around, I was there were 3 churches in a row, all different, all practicing the Christian faith, the different dominations of that. And I was man, they could all share the same parking lot. They're right beside each other. Yeah. And I was wondering, if there was going to be one near you. So I do like that you intentionally chose that space to have it be your own.
Yeah, and so that's another thing with the pandemic. We were thinking about nesting with another church, using their facility and growing from there. But then it was then we really have a hard time carving out our own identity because it's their house, their rules. Mm-hmm. So or if they had a different way that they wanted to operate, that kind of thing. Whereas being here, we were really able to design and build a parish that reflects our community values, and we're able to serve people in a way that is most effective, rather than going around others. But I do encourage churches to go, and I think we're going to see a lot of this in the future. Churches have realized that they can no longer hide inside their buildings and just expect people to come in. That just doesn't work anymore. You can't do that. It used to be that you just went to church, it was just something that you did. Well, people now have so many other priorities and obligations and things going on. But really the church has to go back out into the community like it did in its roots, and go out into the community and connect with people and serve people. And not saying that they haven't been doing that, but we have to do it in a different way.
Well, and I think that's so important about when I'm looking for a church to go to, I really want to know what are you doing in your community to help people. Are you helping feed people, clothe people? What kind of missions do you support? And I think it's important that you have created this down here. As far as supporting though, what have you seen as far as support from other churches, maybe even previous churches you've attended, previous priests that you've had before? What has that support looked like, if any?
We've had a tremendous amount of support, especially from our Protestant brothers and sisters. They've done a fantastic job of being encouraging and supporting and coming to events with us and joining. We did back when we were having more of the Black Lives Matter events last summer, we partnered up, and so there were a lot of things that. There was also that event where we partnered with Country Club United Methodist with the prayer on truce that we did when we formed the wall, and it was a really to pray for people as they were driving and to pray that we heal divides. We've seen a lot of that. Glory Day Lutheran up north is the LCA congregation. They're incredibly supportive, and so we have a lot of those connections that are really helpful, and in terms of just that moral support, which is very important.
Absolutely. And as far as you being a Catholic church, you had mentioned that you had been. This is an independent Catholic church. And me not being Catholic, and I'm not sure exactly how all the hierarchy works in the Catholic Church, but how is your church connected to the Catholic Church in any way, or are you completely separate from them altogether?
So spiritually, we're in communion. I mean, we pray for each other, we encourage one another, and we look for collaborative opportunities at any place that we can. But one of the things that, especially here in the United States, most people only believe that the Roman Catholic Church is the only, that is Catholicism.
Yeah.
But that's not true. As a matter of fact, the Roman Catholic Church is in full communion with 23 other different Catholic jurisdictions.
Okay.
So, and then out of that, you have additional Catholic groups that are varying degrees of connection. So we are in no way connected with either the Archdiocese of KCK or the Roman Catholic Diocese of Kansas City St. Joseph. So we're not affiliated with them in any way. So like we always tell people that as an independent parish, which independent Catholic communities have existed for hundreds of years. Starting up, if you look at the Orthodox Church, really, was they split off, but they really continued the Catholic liturgy and tradition. Over the course of the last 1,000 years, it's kind of taken on its own personality. But you have that, you had the Anglicans, you had the Lutherans. I mean, this was kind of at varying degrees. We, however, are not rejecting. We're not rejecting the Catholic teachings and traditions. In a large part, we're just choosing to emphasize on a certain area of more inclusion and acceptance. So anyway, I don't know if that fully answered it, but in terms of like our governance, and we're really following what the church was established as, whereas the parish, the values and the emphasis of the local community was based off of the needs of the local community.
Yeah.
And so for us, we're serving what is most important, and we're doing what is most important for Christ the King Church here in West Province in Kansas City. We're really making sure that we serve the people that come here and that we set those values and those priorities accordingly.
So you recently, and you have to, pardon me, I don't know all the religious terms.
You're good, go for it.
I think you just got ordained, is that right?
Yeah.
So what was that process like? Especially, as you're forming a new church and taking on a leadership role, and now you're getting ordained. Like, how did that play out for you? Finding somebody and thinking of all especially as identifying not as a cisgender straight male, like in that world, like what is that like for you?
So it was not easy, and it took years. That's the whole thing. It's not like I just woke up one day and was like, I'm going to be a priest, and I did it.
Yeah.
It was a lot. I remember being 7, 8 years old, sitting in the pews with my family, and feeling called. I felt very comfortable at the pulpit, but I had some conflict because I was reading the literature in the back that said that homosexual people were intrinsically disordered, and so that causes a lot of pain, and it causes a lot of questions and things that you really have to grapple with. But ultimately, what it came down to is, I was 13 years old when I was hired to serve in my first church. And so it was like $90 a month. I was paid staff, like big money. But I fell in love. I fell in love with the community. I fell in love with creating beautiful music and worshiping together. And I just knew that God would not create someone who was intrinsically disordered, if you want to say that. God does not contradict himself. So God would not create a specific group of people who are just bad and should be written off. I didn't buy that. Ironically, that was actually more cemented as I was taking Catholic philosophy and theology courses at Wichita State and Lincoln University. So that didn't happen until several years later. But my formation process of the priesthood it's been a long journey. It's been 13, 14 years of really wonderful and phenomenal people and clergy taking me under their wing and investing in me and coaching me. And it's had not only Roman Catholic formation, but then you have United Methodist, Episcopal Church, Lutheran Church. I've had wonderful mentors in different traditions who have really, taken time to spend with me that helped form me into the pastor that I am today. So I'm very thankful for that they gave time, that they saw something in that kid in the back pew, and they thought, I'm going to take him under my wing. So.
Which I think is really cool that you talked about, reading that, that gay people were we weren't when we were created or not created, because a lot of churches don't believe that there is such a thing as a homosexual. They think that there's something wrong, that we can fix it or we can pray it away. But you read that, but you still became a priest, and now you have a church that is opening its doors to the queer community.
Yeah.
And so, what kind of things do you want to do as far as to help the queer community that would read something like that in church and then just turn away from it because they don't feel like they can be included?
Well, I think there's a lot of things that we could unpack or that we could unbox. I mean, we could talk about the trauma that people experience when they're in the church. And so, just to be clear too, like Christ the King Church here is for all people. We have allies that are part here. We have everyone on the spectrum that's here, and that's a beautiful, wonderful thing. In my book, in my opinion, or my belief is that we shouldn't. It's sad that we're doing something that nobody else is doing, or in our tradition, because we should just be the church.
Yeah.
It should be that simple. Just be the church. Be nice, be loving, be caring, and be supportive. It doesn't mean that we're not asked to form ourselves and to grow in the image of Christ and the likeness of Christ. It doesn't mean that Christianity and Catholicism is without sacrifice, because it is. But it's for the greater glory, and it's to become more fully alive. And to realize that you're not alone, which is a really important thing, that you do have a purpose in this world. We have all these different facets. Trying to go back, so what we're doing here in Kansas City as well is first of all helping heal those wounds. We have some people that grew up in a very supportive household, that they were nurtured, they were encouraged as they should be the entire way through, and that they, we had other people who had very, very traumatic experiences, and everything on, like I said, we've got different folks there. So when they come in, the first thing is that they need to know that they are accepted and that they are embraced. And that's the first thing. You think about the prodigal son, for example. When he comes running to the father, and the father wraps his arms around him. And I know that's a little bit of a different background there, a different context, but at the same time, it's that approach to pastoral ministry where people are welcome. First, you welcome them, no matter who you are, because Christ went and ministered to people no matter who they were, and valued them. And that's an important thing, is to feel valued and to feel supported, not just tolerated at best, which is what a lot of places do. What they say, we want you to come, but you have to do this, 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 and this immediately, and you have to check off all those boxes. And I think that's an unfortunate thing, and then because really we're all people who are searching to grow, and we're all searching to improve and to change for the better. And so, myself included. And so that's a daily thing that I ask in my prayers when I say, when I do my examinations and things like that, what am I doing today that I need to improve on and to grow? And so that's not I think that some people will look at that and they say, well, it's just the church suppressing, or that's just the church pushing back. But in reality, it's helping us grow and helping us find that connection and that community. So. Yeah. I don't know if that fully answered your question.
I mean, I just think what you're doing here is great. Because
that's good.
I know that, coming from being grown up Pentecostal, and that was a very difficult journey that I had, because I loved my church, and I as a musician, loved the praise and worship, and I loved being part of the music ministry. And when I was taken out of the music ministry, because I had come out, it really affected me, and it affects lots of people who grow up in church, who then feel like church is a safe space, but now it's not a safe space, because now you've told me there's something bad about me.
Right.
And so the fact that you've opened this place up to allow people to be who they really are, open about that, and give them a place where they can worship with everyone on an equal playing field, I think it's wonderful. So what kind of things do you want to offer to prayer people? Is there any kind of sex education or addiction help or
Yeah, so we're in the process right now. First of all, we just launched, or we did our soft launch 2 weeks ago. So we're kind of getting our wits about us, we're getting our bearings and things like that. We really wanted to, one of the things that we've learned in the planting process is to be intentional about everything. So not to like ramrod your vision through, if there's not a real need. So now we're in the process of meeting people, of listening and learning and finding ways that we can really be of valued service in this community. Rather than looking at it from a perspective of wherever I'm at, thinking, well, this is what's needed. That just doesn't work. Let's not do that. Let's listen to people. But the wonderful thing is that our leadership here at the church, our parishioners here at the church, all understand and want to be able to serve people and create that helpful place. So we're working on that. I was actually listening to what you guys were talking a little bit about and listening to what your work was, and I was like incredibly interested. I was like, wow, we should really collaborate and work together in areas that.
Oh yeah, I'm like, sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's the one, and we don't want to reinvent the wheel because I think that I have a nonprofit background, and oftentimes in the nonprofit world and the parish world and things like that, you have to ask yourself, is somebody else already doing something that we can just help support and that we can help mobilize? How can we take what you're doing and help you grow? Or mutual support. That's a really important thing. And I do believe that there's a lot of folks that are doing tremendously good things in Kansas City, and it's just a matter of us being that place that, how can we help amplify what you're doing?
Yeah, I think the work that you're doing, like Randall touched on, like providing space for people, to be authentic and to live their lives and to practice their faith, and and you're removing that that barrier that kept individuals from accessing the church. That level of judgment and non-acceptance that would come with, if they just walked into the door of a different church that didn't welcome them the way you're welcoming individuals. And I think. One of the things I was thinking about, setting the outline for, this meeting, and I think when we first talked, it's about, like how can individuals who have experienced trauma with the church find their way back to the church? And I think, you're laying that path here, sort of like creating that space for them. So when you're doing that, how are you engaging in the community and like sharing that message and, encouraging individuals to join?
Yeah, so that's one of the things. We actually have our outreach team meeting tonight, and we're in prime location. The food trucks for First Weekend's parked right out there.
Oh,
so yeah, so we are in a prime location for street tacos.
Oh, I'll be here.
Yeah, and we really want to help not only getting people on our door, but we also want to help support like minority-owned businesses and things like that. So we have the Vietnamese coffee shop just opened a couple doors down. So it's like, how can we, help support them at the same time? Like, have them come and collaborate. People can come up here. I know they have their own space too. It's just a thought that we're thinking about. Come on up, when you're shopping, and grab a cup of coffee and a bottle of water, and just chat and come see us and visit us. But then also us going out to the community. So. Doing events like Pride, is another thing that we're really excited about, and working with the community services that are already in place. So we've been very active with harvesters during this time. So we've been packing a ton of meals and doing that. That's one of the things that we do ask of. That's a really important thing for us here at Christ the King. Is I didn't want a church of consumers. In the sense of you come, you sit down, you critique everything, and then you leave, and that's it.
Yeah.
No, I don't want consumers. We want disciples. We want people who are going to live what they're saying, and they totally they embody the love and acceptance of Christ. And so we ask that everyone spends at least 2 hours a month in service giving back to the community. So that's in addition to worship and participating in our church events. So that could be it could be anything from an animal shelter to the food pantry to harvesters or anything in between. But it's just important that we have to, and we hold each other accountable. It's not just, this is not only just a place of healing and renewal for the individual, but then you have to take that and share it with the world.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that you encourage that, because you're right. A lot of people go to church to get fed the message, and then they go home and they just wait till the next Sunday, and then they come back. That's really awesome.
There's no time clock here. You don't get to punch it or punch it out. You're always on.
So with your fiance, how have you found any complications or obstacles? Being because for me, a gay priest is not. It's not something you find every day, at least in my life, because I don't have much connection with the Catholic Church. And it's always a lot of people who don't have much connection do think priests not married, that's not allowed.
Right,
yeah.
So what has that been like for your relationship? And is he very supportive of you, and does he come to service? And
Yes, he does. And we've been together since high school. So we met in youth
oh
symphony.
wow!
We met in the youth symphony, and I saw him. He played French horn. I played tuba. He plays a mean French horn. He's very good, and plays in a lot of ensembles in the community. But it was a one and done. So I saw him, and I was like, boom, that's my whole person. That person, that's all of me. And that's been a long time now. I won't say how long, but it's been a while. And almost, it'll be 10 years next year, 9 years this year. So that to me. So there's a lot that this is a very you ask great questions, but okay. So a couple of things. Number one, this is another thing with us. It's a misconception as well. It's like, because we're not associated with we're not affiliated with the Roman Catholic Diocese, we're not held to that standard, right? So, but in the context of Catholicism, so also talking about how does one become a Catholic priest in the universal sense, and in the church. The Roman Catholic Church looks at apostolic succession as a validating point. So we can continue with our apostolic lineage. So I'm only 5 people away from St. Pope Paul VI. So so less than 50 years. So direct connection, which is really, really neat. And so that's something that I'm very mindful of as I minister to people and share the teachings of the church, to make sure that I do so in a way that is accurate and good and true. But at the same time, so the celibacy in the priesthood is not an original thing. It's not like that started off and it was like, okay, all priests have to be celibate. There are different traditions. There are different Catholic churches within that are in full communion with Rome. That allows married clergy. So that's not most of the time. Okay, every time it's heterosexual relationships, right? Yeah. And oftentimes, if the wife passes and the priest is still, obviously the priest, he's not allowed to remarry. So that's the most common way to do it. You sometimes hear Roman Catholic priests or Roman Catholics, and I'm not, that feel a vocation both to the priesthood and to married life. And so, that's a thing that they discern. But for those of us independent Catholic clergy, as long as it's, we are held to a very high standard as well. So, of course, monogamy is very important. Dedication, commitment, embodying those Christian ideals applies. It's the same. We don't have a separate playbook than straight priests, or straight men. Right. It applies to everyone. And so, with that being said, he has been very supportive. But to be very honest with you, and I'm very cognizant of this, and I tell this to the parish as well, that nobody chooses to be a clergy spouse. Nobody chooses that. And it is a very sacrificial, and it's sacrificial in a lot of ways, because just like with the priest, your life no longer becomes your own. It's you are there to serve, and you are not your own anymore. And that's an okay thing. It's a beautiful thing. I wouldn't change it for the world. But and our parish is really good about boundaries and proper things like that. And so it's been. I feel like He really enjoys the friendships that he has here. He loves the people. He actually built our altar and our credence table, our welcome table in the back by the coffee area. And his mom made our tabernacle by hand. And so,
I think that's so incredible.
yeah. And so, and it's that support. You can't, from a clergy perspective as well, we rely so much on our spouses to get us, like when we have a tough day. And there are times when we as clergy have to see really sad and painful things. And we have to experience the full depths with the people that we're serving. And there are times when I give thanks to God for it, but because you're helping represent the love of Christ in the community. That's not to say there aren't days when I want to go home and just curl up into a ball and just like have a moment of just silence and just hide and recharge. And that's when that support becomes invaluable. Just to, and then he'll look at me and go, "Okay, are you better? Are you done?" Yeah.
I've processed.
I'm okay. And then we get up and we do it again. And that's just how it works. But that support, I wouldn't be here without him. So
that was one of the questions I had. Like, I think of individuals who have been turned away from the church or have turned themselves away from the church and have chosen not to pursue it, especially at a young age, and then on that. There's a lot more than just going to church and sitting there and listening to the pastor. Like, for your role, and I wasn't sure if that's something that, is provided here, is like, that counseling service that's there. It's like someone to talk to and to work through issues. Like, maybe you don't want to go, like, you're not thinking of therapy, but you're thinking of, having some marital issues or a concern that they could talk to their pastor about it. Or they're dealing with grief, or that loss, that you're somebody they can go to and talk to.
absolutely.
And it sounds like that's, within your capacity here in this space, that you provide that for individuals as well.
Yeah, and they don't have to be parishioners either. I mean, we have people that will give me a call and they'll say, Father, I'm not comfortable talking to this about with my pastor, and so ultimately there's a point in time where I do have to say, well, you have to have some boundaries there.
Yeah.
And you also have to, but at the same time, if somebody needs 10 minutes just to talk to a priest, and if they have questions, if they have something that they have just really wanted to get off their chest for years, and just be nice.
Right.
But remember, it wasn't me. But they really have some deep questions, and they have something they just haven't been able to ask it. I'm more than happy to help have conversations with people. That's why we're here. That's why we wear the collar. It's not because it's super fashionable. It's to show that we're in the community and we're here to support and help people. So,
what can somebody expect? Like a new person coming to your church, it's their first set, it's their first sermon. Like, what does that look like for them?
Yeah. Okay. So we have our greeters downstairs. So we are not on the ground floor. We're in the Crane building here, and so we'll have greeters downstairs that'll welcome you, and then we'll be guided upstairs. It's just one flight of stairs, and then two small flights of stairs, I should say. One floor. Yeah. Only 4 steps. So you shouldn't have to work out before you come. And you shouldn't have to prepare yourself. And then as you come in, you'll be greeted, and we'll have, I'm usually out and about. I don't hide. I pray and I meditate and I get myself prepared, but I really like to engage with people and connect with people. That's another thing too, is that this isn't one of those churches, I call them possums, because I've served in churches that were sometimes full of possums, where you walk in and everyone just stares at you like possums in a barn, but nobody will talk to you.
Yeah.
And that's not here. We don't want to overwhelm people. We want to get to know people, and we want to hear what brought you in, and really connect with folks. And the most important thing is that when you come, that you experience some sort of inspiration or transformation or renewal. We have some people that, actually a lot of us, are incredibly busy people. We have a lot of things going on, and we just want a place to land, and to just, I call it like when a duck lands in the water, and it's just like, have some time where you can just be with a loving community in the presence of God. That's recharge. Go out into the world and be the hands and feet of Christ. But when you come, if you don't have the mass memorized, that's okay. We have a program so that, like we have a bulletin with our announcements in it and everything. So we do type that up. Also, we don't have kneelers installed because we wanted to keep this place flexible. We also weren't sure how long we'd be here until we needed to either, we outgrow our space or we would get different. So you don't have to worry about the kneeling per se. I know that some people, Protestants especially, are really worried about that. And it's like,
Worried about the kneeling, really?
But they're worried about the calisthenics. They're like, well, when will I know to stand up or sit down?
Oh, I just watch everybody else.
Exactly. It's like
okay.
relax. It's okay. You just want to observe your first mass. That's totally okay too. So there are we have cradle Catholics who still they still have questions, and that's a great thing. I mean, if you think you know everything about everything, especially when it comes to our rich faith, you're wrong. You don't, because it's incredibly rich intellectually, and there have been tremendous giants in the Catholic faith, in Christianity as a whole, who have written volumes that could spin circles around most of our philosophers and people of today. And that's another big misconception, is that people believe that you hear about folks saying that the church is used to control people, or it's used to do different things, and it's true, bad things have happened in the church, but that's because people are flawed at times, and every organization, every government, every institution, every group, every religious movement, everything when you have multiple people gathered, feelings have gotten hurt, painful things have been done, bad things have been done, but that's not, we have to acknowledge those things, and then, like I said, dust ourselves off, and then say, are you good? And not to say that it's okay what happened, but we now need to move forward and heal those wounds, and we need to move forward and make sure we don't repeat those things.
Yeah.
And be a really strong advocate for that.
I think we were talking earlier before we went live that you guys have talked about streaming your services.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was, as Randall had mentioned, a great way for you to check out the church before you go.
Absolutely.
So how you've only been 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah.
So have you already started streaming, or is that something that's coming?
Did this past week, but this next week is our first planned stream. So it's going to be this 7 o'clock. It's going to be the chant mass that we do. It's really pretty. It's not all in Latin. It's just parts of it are in Latin. So it's something we use the incense. We've got all of that. The candles are beautiful in the space, especially in the evening. So we do have in-person services or masses at 5 and 7. And you can RSVP. We've capped it at 15 at this time per mass, just because we have a great air system installed. We open up the windows. We really want to make sure that airflow is going, and that everyone's masked up, and that we really emphasize everyone's safety. So we do have those 2 masses where you can come in person, or if you just want to check it out, the mass at 7 is live streamed.
And that's 5 and 7 on Sunday evenings.
Yep. And we have fellowship, RCIA in between at 6. And so we have coffee, refreshments, that kind of thing. And then I think what we're going to do after the 7 p.m. mass is we're going to start doing a Sunday night restaurant hop. Just kind of finding a restaurant area. I don't know about you guys, but with church in general, I pray fellowship and community too. So it's worship, and then let's go support a mom and pop restaurant. If they're open, that's the only problem. But that's another thing too, is that we try and we look for ways to incorporate people and include people, outside of the mass as well. And so to really kind of like for example, we have folks that maybe the first thing that they come to mass is probably not the best option because they might be intimidated, but they would certainly be willing to come help pack boxes for harvesters.
Yeah.
Or a volunteer at the food pantry distribution center, and things like that. Mm-hmm. And that's once a month. And so we have our newsletter just came out. And so we have dates. We have people. So folks can message us if they're interested or if they have ideas of things that we could do to help. We're in that mindset of we're truly listening and just wanting to help engage in the community in ways that are most effective. And so suggestions are welcome, ideas are welcome and encouraged.
How's your? You're newly open, so I wouldn't imagine you're pushing people out the door because you don't have enough space. But I imagine you've had good attendance, especially with people who are SMPing.
Yeah, it's been pretty good. That's another thing is that we have to, if you have a personality like me, which is I like things to be done really well, and I think people appreciate that when it comes down to the liturgy, because things, they flow well, and they're not sitting on dirty chairs because I lint rolled them, and like things like that.
The little things.
It's the little things that make a big difference, and especially in the age of COVID, like you really want to make sure your space is spotless, and so we work hard for that. But anyway, I'm sorry, Wes. What was the rest of that question?
Well, just you said you capped it at 50.
Oh yeah. Sorry. So no, and I think the weather. So we're really working on engaging and inviting people, and so just coming and checking it out is really supportive. Not only even if you're not interested per se in becoming Catholic, to support the parish and to come and say hey, we like what you're doing. That's a great way too to become to help support and connect with us. So.
Well, I think that fellowship and communion. I mean, I'm not a religious person or practice a religious faith, I should say. But also I don't play volleyball or anything along those lines. But I would go to volleyball when people would get together with friends and meet new people. So I would go and watch them play volleyball. But we'd all go and eat, and
the
have that
fellowship
time
yes.
afterwards.
Yes.
I'm I totally can relate to that and how important that is, and that feeling of that's the connection that we want to build. Yeah, that's great that you're providing that space for individuals.
Yeah. So and you can RSVP for masses on our website, ChristTheKingKC.com. Yeah, I remember that was the URL.
We'll drop that down below here somewhere.
And you can even do the ... where I was thinking, because I was I don't remember. Well, we're actually getting our website updated, so I was did we change the URL? I can't remember. So anyway, no, we didn't. So yeah, but we're really excited about that. We're continuing the momentum. So we call this kind of our soft launch, because we're still feeling things out. We're still learning. We're still growing. And our mass is set. We have a fantastic musician, our music director, who is phenomenal.
Music is important.
Music is very important, and so he does a terrific job. And so we're working those things out. We're still growing, and we're keeping ourselves almost in that launch phase of continuing to bring people in. And we're planning on having a proper launch for the parish in September. We're really, we're hoping that enough people be vaccinated, and that even with masks or outside, and a combination of those things, just to make sure that we do it safely. Yeah. But we are going to do a big proper, startup.
Yeah.
In September.
So I feel like this is a loaded question just because you just started.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you see your church in 2 to 5 years? What growth or what's your potential you guys see for yourselves?
Well, God does amazing things. I know that might sound silly, but
you're here now.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, and this was totally unexpected. When we started in March of last year, if you would have told me, hey, we're going to have you set up in this really cool 1896 warehouse in West Providence, I'd be like, you're crazy. No, that's not what churches do. And,
right.
And we're supposed to have a brick building with a steeple in suburbia. And no. But that's not where we were called to go. And I think that's the mindset that we've had the entire time has been to stop, pause, listen, hear what people have to say, hear what God has to say, and then follow through with that. And so for me, I could care less if, I know this sounds bad, but I could care less if I have 100 people or 1,000 people. What I want is true connection, true relationships, true development and growth together. Now, if that means that we are genuinely able to continue that with a larger amount of people, that's fantastic. But as pastor, my objective when I sit in my office or when I'm out in the coffee shop talking with people isn't thinking I want to have this person in the church so that we can grow, so that we can become bigger, so that we can check this box off. It's, are we being intentional? Are we being transformational? Are we truly helping people? And if we can do that, with a larger number and keep that consistent and never lose sight of that, then I'm all for, having a larger parish. But as long as we always remember to keep the main thing. And so that's important to us.
I love that, and there's something that you had said before, at least before we came into in here. You said that you were here to make money.
Right.
And I think
I'm not paid.
I think that's so, but I think that's so important because so many churches that people see, especially people who who aren't Christian or who aren't Catholic or have no faith at all, and they see them on television, and it's church has been so commercialized, and they're selling books, and they sell shirts, and it's send us money online, and it's to have a place where it's we're not here to make money, we're here to serve the community.
Right.
That's what's important, and that is what can create that grassroots growth of community. And
I went to a church one time, and I'm not trying to badmouth. I'm really not. I went to a church one time, and they actually had debit credit card scanners as you went into the church space. So you had to swipe your card to be allowed in.
Oh.
And I just thought,
you're just signing up for a monthly plan, it's fine.
Yeah. But I just thought, well, didn't Jesus turn over tables because of this? Like, didn't he have like a really big problem with that?
Yes.
And I think, and this is where I go to sometimes people who are even that we serve, in other parishes and other contexts, they're tolerated because they're needed for their resources, or because they,
where are we going to get the funds?
Exactly. And it's almost used as like a tool for manipulation on both sides. Parishioners can do it to churches too, but the thing for me is, God will always provide, and He has. There have been times where during this pandemic and this process where we thought, I'm not going to lie, I've been stressed at times. I mean, that's or concerned. But time and time again, I've learned to just take a deep breath and realize, just keep doing what you're supposed to do, and the rest will take care of itself. And if, whatever that means, but you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable to some extent. That's ministry 101. That's good ministry 101, because we're called to go where we're served. And I can't tell you how many times I don't have like a regimented agenda every day. Like, I have things I need to get done every week in order to prepare for our masses and things like that. But really, I could get a phone call in the morning, and there goes my day. But it's okay, because it's what I'm called to do. And so it's being comfortable with that. It's like being an EMT or anything else. Like, you get that phone call and you gotta go. So, but I enjoy every bit of it. I almost enjoy being uncomfortable to some extent.
Someone told me one time that God is in the interruptions.
Yeah.
Oh, that's powerful.
And He so is. Because your plan is fine. If you're a person that likes to plan and be in control, that's fine. But God has a plan.
Right.
And sometimes you have to just let Him interrupt you and go where He tells you to go. And it's so interesting when you have that relationship with Him, because sometimes it's like, I feel like I'm on the right path, but He's like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
So
I was like the one, if the joke that if you want to make God laugh, tell Him your plans.
Yes, exactly.
But okay, so here's the thing that I have noticed, that I have seen a couple of things. Number one, people need to treat God as a spiritual sugar daddy.
Oh,
and they go, I want God to do this, and this for me. It's very egocentric, and it's very self-centered. On the outside, people also look and they see God as controlling. A lot like Nietzsche, for example, and Marx, and a lot of those, their perception of God was that He was subduing your rights and your liberties and your freedoms. But in reality, it's that it is. What is it? Saint Irenaeus said, the glory of God is the human being fully alive. So that means to be fully alive and in tune with yourself and your loved ones and who you are. That's God being glorified to the fullest. And so, and again, going back to it, St. Thomas Aquinas writes, and he was a theological giant. I mean, he wrote volumes, and he's really impacted a lot of Western thought to this day. It's even said that he took Plato and Aristotle and he baptized them. So that kind of set the trajectory for Western philosophy as we know it today. Whether or not we realize it, he was very instrumental in that. But basically, not only does he talk about creation as a whole, proving the existence of God using logical reasoning and philosophy, but also saying that you are supposed to, you will realize who you are and enjoy the full freedoms by understanding that you're a creation of God, by knowing that you're a creation of God, and being okay with that, that you're not flawed by being who you are. which is a really important thing. And that's freeing to a lot of people, especially people who have experienced significant trauma. But on the other end, we also have folks who that would go in one ear right out the other, and they would go, okay, right, but when am I getting that job promotion? But right, you know, and I hate to tell you this, but it's not always a comfortable journey, and it's not, and you have to, again, you know, you have to be okay with that, be at peace with that, and so anyway, that's all in that road, but yeah.
He's an on-time God, but not on your time.
Yeah,
Or your demands.
That's right.
I liked, we were talking about being in that uncomfortable state.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, we do clear counseling for people who live with HIV. And when we set goals, we're talking about making those like long changes in an individual, like to support them, that you need to be between, you know, a 45 and a 65 range in this uncomfortable zone to get that growth that you need to be better, you know, when you go forward. And I'm like, I love that you're like, I prefer to be in that uncomfortable zone. That's where you have the most growth. So I think that's so great. Yeah.
And I'm almost looking for opportunities and doing things that I would be uncomfortable with to learn to put myself into that position. Like, I found that happening during the pandemic. Like, I've gone to events and like that otherwise, like I had never been to, you know, I had never been to like a Black Lives Matter event before, but I was like, you know what, I feel called and I feel compelled to do this. I need to learn. And I didn't just go because I wanted a picture of myself, or I didn't go because I wanted to, you know, feel good about myself, pat myself on the back. I went to listen. And I find that so often we are really comfortable with hearing ourselves talk, especially when we think it sounds good. But that really doesn't solve our problems if you're not stopping and listening and hearing about what their pains are, what their concerns are. And I have learned so much about, like the 4 zip codes in Kansas City that have a life expectancy rate like 20 years less than the rest of Kansas City. Yeah. It's terrible. And to hear, you know, these different things, and then to learn, like, what are your biggest concerns, and then you start to kind of learn and get some ideas about how you can help. And so we're still discerning that and deciding, you know, other than just being boots on the ground and, you know, there to help them, you know, with what they need. But that's another thing too, is it's like we don't want to impose what we think should be done. Right. We want to listen because they know best. And that's not only in the zip codes, but it's any demographic, it's any group, it's any area or group of people that are looking for help. You know, if you just listen, they'll tell you. And it's the same thing in pastoral ministry. That's why I'm saying it almost like an academic sense, and I shouldn't do that. But like a pastoral sense, people will tell you what's on their mind. They'll tell you what's troubling them. And you know, from my perspective as well, contrary to what this interview might sound like, I actually am comfortable. I've developed the skill of being quiet and listening. Yeah. Almost to a point of it being uncomfortable. You know, like sitting in the confessional, and you know, you look at someone. Yeah. And then you let them have a little bit more, because they know what's down there in their gut that they need to say and to get off their chest. And it could be anything. But creating that space, that almost a healthy tension, where you can let people open up. Because if you can do that, if you can listen, a lot more good comes out.
Yes, agree, 100%.
And I'm like, it's not totally not appropriate. I have like, I wonder what people are saying in confessional. Do not answer that question. I know you can't answer that question either way, but still. So it's good to know that there are places that you can go, especially that are affirming and supportive of the way an individual presents himself and identifies. And, you know, especially when you're looking for a place to practice your faith or learn your faith, and then create that sense of community that comes with it. So I really want to thank you for allowing us this time to like meet with you and to learn more about your church and what you're doing, and to share that message with our viewers and encourage everyone to take part, you know, and like touch back on your faith and reflect on, you know, what steered you away, and maybe there's an opportunity here to guide you back to it. And this could be that moment that you're waiting for, that sign that you need, or something like that. So thank you for this time and for the work that y'all are doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you want, make sure you let
Awesome.
everybody know like how they can participate, join, share your message.
Yeah. So you can check us out. We are on Facebook, and so Facebook and Instagram, and then of course our website, which ChristTheKingKC.com. I got it this time.
I know it's like Christ the King
KC,
because when I was trying to tag y'all on Facebook, I was like, oh wait, there are multiple Christ the King.
There are. So
Yeah.
there's a Roman Catholic church in Warhol. There's a couple of them. There's different names. So you have to. We're in West Palm. So 1107 Hickory.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Randall, anything going on for you this weekend? Anything exciting?
Well, we have Rock the Mic Thursday, which is our live singing competition, much like American Idol. So we're down to the top 10.
Oh my god.
The winner of Rock the Mic gets $1,000 in studio time to begin recording their first album. So Rock the Mic, I created that show to really help local artists get started and for them to have a place to sing because there's so much talent in the city. So come check that out. And of course, anytime Hamburger Mary's on the weekends, we have a great time. So
Awesome. Well, thank you both. Like, follow, share Hamburger Mary's with Randall, Father Taylor with Christ the King, and Unboxed with me. Hey. All right, bye, y'all.
God bless.